coming from a variety of doors. They came without a hint of the faintest noise. These appeared on the street corners, populated beach shores, and even in the depths of darkness where people didn't go. While they looked like random doors, they could not be opened, nor broken, nor moved. It was only until a few years ago that they really became known. First they opened with a bright and shining light, which was then replaced with darkness and overflowing monsters, which preyed on the humans nearby. On that day the sky turned crimson, and amid the screams and bellows, divine beings descended from the heavens and looked down at them with their cold and uncaring eyes. The winged people were like angels. Meanwhile, one small girl had fallen on the street. Around her was absolute chaos, but her brother assured her that things were all okay, despite the spikes impaling his chest. He gives a reassuring smile and promises to protect her. Just then a monster approached and raised its weapon, ready to kill the vulnerable children. As Emma grew weaker, he used his body to shield Yumi's. The weak little girl could only beg for her brother to stay by her side. With this, a rain of sparkling light showered them as if answering her prayer, and things suddenly felt different. Hugging her brother tight, she continued to call to the deities. The light, now emitting from their bodies, flashed brightly at the monster's body again. She refused to let anyone take her big brother away from her. The light illuminated the entire area, and while it brought them an odd warmth, barely awake and still unable to comprehend what was happening, the brother watched. There was no rhyme or reason behind the attack. Said there were 7 messengers, and that he was just the first. Seeing a hospital ceiling, Emma's eyes shot wide open, and he nearly jumped out of his bed. Upon waking up, he wasn't hurt, and his injuries have been healed. The doctor says he narrowly escaped death with the help of an awakened one. At the same time, the gates opened. Powers appeared in a quarter of the population. As such, they began referring to those with supernatural abilities. As the awakened, there were many casualties. Meanwhile, the person who saved him was already running there. Yumi urgently slid the door open and threw herself into his arms. To his surprise, she's awakened with the light attribute, bearer of the rare healing and purifying powers. The little girl bawls, just glad that he was still alive. Just like that, 10 years passed. Office goers were on the way to work and watched a video play on their phones. Yumi, now much older, called to them with a bright and dazzling voice. As a 16-year-old, she was a pretty popular streamer and hunter. Dungeons showed up all around the world and were referred to as gates, who conquered the ever-increasing number of gates in preparation for the second messenger's arrival. They were in an age of absurdity and despair. But humanity didn't just cower in fear. Aside from Yumi, there were several other streamers. Such activities quickly became popular online, as several of the awakened dove into dungeons, with nothing but their cameras. The girl announces that the gate shall be. Conquering is a new challenge, and was suggested by her senior hunter, named Ryika. The woman had told her that it was time to start tackling B-rank gates, but her audience called her a newbie crusher. Seeing these comments flood in, she warns them against attacking people in the chat and quickly blocks those who do, wanting only to become independent. Surprisingly, she became a rising star among the top streamers. Meanwhile, Emma stayed behind the scenes, supporting his sister as her cameraman and moderator. But he can't help but be bothered by the sheer amount of hate comments flooding in. Meanwhile, the girl stream played on another monitor at home and grimaced as she saw waves of comments, all trash talking her in the B-ranked dungeon, purifying them out of existence. Since it's her first time tackling a B-ranked dungeon, it was proving to be a bit difficult. Encouraging words poured in from the chat, wanting to take them all out in one go. She gathers the monsters and casts a high-level spell to summon a divine sickle of light. While it was a beautiful display, they could only imagine the amount of mana needed for such magic. Emma watches her fight, worried, and feels regretful that he didn't awaken with her. Her warm voice tells him not to worry. Dazzling and graceful despite going through a tough battle, she declares that she has no intention of losing. The chat agrees, telling her to do her very best. She gathers power into her sickle of feathers, and as she swings it around in the air, the sharp slashes of light cut the enemies down. They all cheered as the monsters were defeated. and the hunter flashed a victorious pose. Emma was worried for a second, but it seems that Rika's advice was spot on. That said, countless hate comments were still coming to drag her through the mud. Yumi takes a break drained of her mana, and the audience sees a figure in the background. They ask if there was someone else there. Meanwhile, Rika was watching from home with a sinister face. As the others warn things take a turn for the worse, he doesn't react in time, and a quick swipe brings the young man to the ground. With this, the intruders were free to approach the girl, already letting their heinous thoughts seep out. Their faces alone spell trouble. And while the masked idly watched, the leader of the group cast a spell, filling his arm with power. He says his job is to hurt her for his and his employer's enjoyment. Yumi has no idea who they are and what they want, but it's obvious that they don't want to talk. Unfortunately, it doesn't take too long. The camera was still pointed at them, and the audience watched things unfold. Dragged around, her tears fell, and she desperately called to her brother. For a while, all they could hear were pained grunts. But the poor girl eventually stopped moving. Used to it, they know that the next move is to lead the victims as monster food. They start with Yumi and carry her limp body like random feed. Just then, flames ignited and burst forth. They see the blaze coming from Emma's body, lighting the dark cave up in a scorching heat. The men have no idea what was happening, but start to panic as the flames burn through the worm monster. Recalling the mission details, they complain that the brother was supposed to be a powerless cameraman. He should be, but the flames he was emitting were about to consume everything there, without needing to look too much. It was clearly the power of someone who's awakened. Emma forced himself to move, reminding himself of his promise to protect Yumi. Ember started to fly. A voice tells him to get angry. If he really wants power, let the fury burn and allow it to scorch his soul. From deep within, he sees his phone pointed at his sister with its camera still on. He saw the horrific and heart-wrenching sight of her ravaged body, looking at him desperate for help. Flaring up, the young man is consumed by hate and rage. His flames grew strong, blazing and burning through everything in the area, while the heinous men started to panic and sends a blast of rocks his way. Emma's limbs and head were searing, but he slowly made his way to his sister. His heart was burning, perhaps not just with flames, but with anger and hatred from within. The men consider calling Asaka back, except he killed them too, if they did that as one suggests, who ran away without hesitation, even using his wind magic to boost his escape. The fire dies down a bit, and Emma crawls to his sister in tears, calling hopelessly. Her eyes, despite being lifeless, were still open and frozen in her moment of desperation. It wouldn't bring the girl back. Regardless of the pain they had to live through. Now, both of their smiles were gone, stolen by the people who randomly decided to ruin their lives. Closing her eyes, first he says, she must not once show this state of hers to the people. He blazes again, allowing it to devour both of them in a torrent of raging flames. While he remained unaffected, her body was slowly incinerated. With this, Yaneme said his final goodbye to his sister, leaving nothing but ash on the ground where she last lay. Suddenly, he finds himself in a place where the land itself is burning. Amid the heat, a deep and chilling voice spoke, noting that he actually came. The being's body was sunken with wings, not unlike a messenger's, except he looked corrupted. The young man says, he must have ended up in hell after killing the hunter from before. Hearing this, it laughs at the concept of heaven and hell, saying humans simply turn to ash upon death. He is Vox akin of the demon race, and the boy isn't dead yet, but was in a world he created himself. Emma struggled to understand and accept the things he was being told. Firstly, doubting that he was still alive, was an enemy of the messengers from the sky. Since he hates being roundabout and wasting time, he tells him straight that they must form a contract with each other. The demon roars with laughter, saying he earlier had a taste of the flames of his cataclysm. Emma flatly rejected the offer and told him to stop running his mouth with assumptions. Even if he had power, there's absolutely nothing he wants to do with it. VX spits his words out, saying they're all a bunch of empty lies. If he really has no desires, then why was the fire inside him still raging? As the demon says this, he unlocks that very flame, which then erupts to consume the young man's body. He screamed from the fire of rage and was told to embrace it and turn it into strength. After all, his fury was the thing that woke the demon in the first place. If they were to partner together, all his anger could turn into pure power. The terms are questionable, and the human can't even understand why he would do this. All the demonic being wanted right now was to devour the world's despair. He can cause despair to those he hates, and Vox will devour it entirely for sustenance, knowing he has someone in mind. The boy is told to be honest with himself. With this, the flames raged again. Even if he does get revenge, nothing is going to change, and his sister will still be dead. He keeps trying to look for a meaning, seemingly eager to find a reason to accept. The image of Yumi's smile flashed in his head, and he realized that he doesn't need any bigger reason to do it. Accepting his hatred, the contract is sealed. Now eerily calm, Emma says he's also done talking in circles and asks the demon to teach him about his powers. Vox is delighted by the new look on his face. In this world, it's impossible for him to die, and he'll feel neither hunger nor exhaustion, with an unending wave of enemies. He's free to learn and take as much power as he possibly can. The young human's training begins, with blazing fire bursting from every inch of his body. He scorched and burned the entire environment. He sees a particularly large and sturdy enemy, and finds it resembles the man who defiled and hurt his sister. The flames grew even stronger, and he drove his smoldering fist deep into the enemy's chest. Meanwhile, VX smiled in satisfaction as he watched his new partner work. The demon told him to do whatever he wanted. Now he has a question for the weary arsonist, as it's an impulsive emotion. After all, Emma is asked how he feels now that 30 million seconds have passed. He now understands that if that truly is the case, then the feelings scorched into his skull must not just be anger anymore. Vox lets him pass, delighted by the conclusion he's come to, and finalizes their relationship as partners. He's engulfed by a current of deep red flames, finally let back into the real world. Meanwhile, voices are heard from inside a dark gate. One of the men empowers his fist and pulls it back. While his friend weeps, he kicks the dead body around, saying he's far too weak to be taking life so seriously. Adding on, he says, they didn't learn a thing from the Yumi murder incident. From last year, turning to the newbie beside him, he gives a knowing chuckle, while his partner moved on to the girl. The young man recalled the incident that took place. He was fired because of the failure, but brushes it off as too old of a mistake to care about. Just then a playful but chilling voice echoed in the cave, streaming his exploration. Emma emerged with a crazed smile, saying he was about to enter a certain gate. The man sees Emma and, thinking he's a streamer, gets annoyed, as one always manages to show up at the worst time possible. But embers suddenly appear around his body, without any warning whatsoever. The thug's entire body burst into flames. The others watched in shock while they returned. He apologized for being new to streaming. On the other hand, the comments cannot believe what was happening and say that it must be some stunt. However, the newbie recognizes his face and freezes in fear as Emma points his finger and the camera at him, identifying him as Key. His stunned face was shown clearly on the screen. Back then, cops and a rank hunter came to the scene, but the culprit had disappeared without a trace. He had a mask back then, but they're able to confirm from a recording of the previous stream. Desperate to save himself, he tells the others to attack, as one of their own has already been attacked, and he says the rest of them are just as bad. They use their hunter licenses to hide and continuously committed the most heinous crimes. He asks the audience what should happen to such disgusting people. Whatever happens, they deserve it. One tries to retaliate and emits electricity from his arms, meeting his seething gaze. They're told to let their sins burn them alive. There were 3 people there, but none could touch him without getting burned. They all screamed in pain and flailed around, suffering as the fire burnt their skin and moved on to their flesh. In the chat, some ask why he isn't banned, while others are glad that the evildoers are being punished, answering their calls. Emma smiles as he points to Key, announcing that he's next. In that instant, his legs were engulfed in flames, causing agonized cries to ring out. The audience was thrilled, saying it serves him right, so he endlessly screams apologies, fluids coming out of his bodily orifices. The slobbering gets to some viewers, and they want him to be released as he had already said sorry. With a cold glare, Emma surprisingly accepts the request. He reads the username of the requester and says he'll kill their parents next. Then, if he apologizes later, they should forgive him because that's how things work. But anonymity these days breaks and crumbles with barely any effort. This threat makes the people panic, and they suddenly express their anger towards Emma. Meanwhile, Vox thrived, relishing in their despair and feeding more power into his contractor. The feeling of hopelessness doesn't have to come from him, but can be extracted from the mass of rage around him. All that can be used, and to put things simply, the more viral he goes, the more strength he'll receive in return. He continued to scream, backing away desperately as his legs started to sear. This was a great first step, but if he kills the viewer's parents, like he said, it'll blow up even more. Emma smiles, saying that was just a bluff to fuel the flames, and the prey he'll be hunting has already been decided. Those who trample and treat the world like it's theirs, committing crimes without end, will all be subject to his judgment and punishment. Vox can't help but agree. The despair that hits fast and hard as the taste is Therese, just like Yumi's murderer, turning to the camera with a smile. He says he's muting them for now as he has a question to ask. He continued to bawl, begging for mercy and promising to do anything he asks. With this, Emma asks about their top leader and demands to be told everything they know. The man stops for a while and stares at him, conflicted between the two options. He says he can't talk as his boss, and his men will kill him if he does. Desperate to survive, he summons a huge gust of wind to quell the flames around him. Pushing his hands forward, he commands the wind to move faster and cut his enemies down. Then, raising his arms, he gathers all his energy for his strongest attack. Compared to the boss ruling them all, the boy before him was nothing. Or so he believed, aiming at his assailant. He launches the wind sphere forward. The dust takes a while to settle, but he's sure that he killed the young man somehow. Just then the remnants of his spell blew away, and embers flickered around his body. A breeze as weak as that will only serve to fan the blazing flames. To everyone's surprise, the wind is unable to extinguish his flames. Normally, when one is burned at the stake, they die from suffocation before even burning to death. But this fire was different and would scorch his body from the feet up, burning all the way to his heart. That said, he won't die. Begging for mercy, he says the man is too insane to betray. The amount of fear he's showing piques and Miss Curiosity. So he asks for just a name and promises to weaken the fire in exchange. The vile man hesitates, still crying, and is told that the pain in his legs must be unbearable. It's very true, so after a moment of hesitation, finally the target has a name to go with it, and he now knows who he's after. Emma returns to the viewers and apologizes for making them wait. Since the two came to an agreement, he'll be a man of his word and keep his promise. The flames weaken, proving that they can have a proper conversation, having gotten what he came for in the first place. It's time to do the outro for the stream. He called to him in a desperate plea, saying the flames haven't died yet. With a cold gaze, the merciless man says, a grunt like him who doesn't know anything deserves to burn now. He should feel the pain and suffering he caused Yumi as he slowly turns to ash. The viewers watch with mixed feelings. Although unable to do anything, screams rang out once more, but he brought it on himself. On the other hand, VX savored his despair and couldn't help but exclaim at how delectable his agony was. With the target identified, Emma walks away from the blaze and noise. There was Kuro and another person. He doesn't have a lot of leads yet, but he vows to never let them get away. Watching that very stream, well aware that the brother might come for her soon, Emma was determined to find and burn them all, for the purpose of his revenge. People in school talked about rumors of the flame demon, who suddenly comes to punish those who commit evil deeds. In the shadows, once he arrives, they can rest assured that he'll burn everything into ash. Deep in a gate, a man takes a girl hostage in front of her companions, with a blade touching her neck. Sina begs for mercy, while her friends scorn the man for preying on a weak newbie. He tells them to leave the items and magic stones behind, if they don't want trouble. Just then an iconic hello echoed in the dark, and a rising streamer entered the scene. The villain's name was Shiki, who's taken more than 20 people hostage, but never killed anyone directly. Unfortunately, he stole his target's gear in the middle of a gate, so they died as a result. While the usual screaming began questioning what he was, the comments hating on him poured in. Knowing Emma, they asked if he's going to burn the hostage, who's a part-timer and AD rank hunter. To their surprise, she's Shiki's partner and joins parties as a newbie, just to be taken hostage. When the man learned that he had caused deaths, he tried to turn himself in, but she forced him to keep going. In other words, she was the mastermind caught in their act. He trembles in fear while her expression changes completely furious. She lashes out at the uninvited hunter, who's exposed them for their scam, saying it's a privacy violation. She gathered her power into her fist and charged at him. However, she suddenly stops and punches the ground instead, causing it to rupture in a line. Rocks came flying, and while the party members looked in shock, Emma simply smiled and asked the viewers what they should do with such people. The woman dropped the act completely and was now openly cursing them. So there was only one thing to do. Having brought it on themselves, they deserve to be blown up. She continues to launch attacks with her Earth attribute, wanting to turn her enemy into minced meat. Several heavy masses of stone fly towards him, but he just scoffs at the attack and says he likes grilled meat as well. The young hunter places his hand on the ground and casts purgatory, causing flames to erupt from the ground beneath her. Meanwhile, the victims stagger from the horrifying sight. Clad in flames, he looks at the girl and says, their sins will all be burned away completely. They will be sent to hell, where they must endlessly kneel and apologize to the 3 they killed, as Aya was completely incinerated. Shiki was left alone, still in tears over what happened. He has a duty to atone for their crimes, so he must turn himself in or suffer the same fate as she did. The man accepted the deal immediately, while the audience questioned if letting him go is a mistake. With a sickening smile, he says he doesn't need evidence to burn all trash that exists. They argue that they obviously do, and proceed to call him names for not knowing how things work. Meanwhile, Shiki was on the ground kneeling, crying and shaking in relief as he thanked the one who killed Ice. Looking at his phone, he sees the old message from the hunter, begging for help and saying she was threatening him. Moving on, and he says there's something he has to ask. With an eerie gaze, he asks Shiki if he knows anything about those involved in the Yumi incident. Later on, Vox emerged from the shadows with a chortle. He says the woman's despair was delightful, but way too small of a portion. If his contractor roasted the guy as well, then they could have gotten something really good. With a stern stare, he says it's his power and will use it however he wants. The demon chuckles, feigning fear. Since forming their agreement, Emma has gradually been learning how his abilities work. His flames burn hotter when more and more people comment in his stream or use hashtags. And it doesn't matter who the anger is directed towards. It can be anger at him, evil people, victims who mistakenly let their guard down, or even totally unrelated stuff. Envy toward a friend, anger toward a customer or a teammate in online games. Individually, the effect might be weak, but there are tons of people who we can gather shallow hate from. Online rage is nothing more than that. After all, Vox then asks what he was thinking when he made that messaging app. He might get trolled on a forum, but all he wants is for the contact info to spread. Through word of mouth, what's more. It takes guts to install such a shady app and contact him through it. The demon questions if something like that will actually help him find who he's looking for. The guy who killed his sister and the person who hired him have not been caught, despite an entire year passing by. So it's obvious that they won't be tracked so easily. As such, he's decided to draw his enemies out from their side. His messages and challenges are all meant to spread and drag them into the light. Right at that moment, he receives an interesting message. People talk about the recent incidents that have been circling around the internet. Emma was exposing and burning criminals down, and people wondered who was next. In the Hunters Federation headquarters, 5 hunters shared a table. Just then someone approached and thanked them for gathering, despite their busy schedules. It was Jira, who says the meeting is about the so-called Flame Demon, as he'd like them to finalize their policy on the vigilante. They have a briefing with an image of Yenme in the middle. From what they've seen, He's carrying revenge out for the death of his sister Yumi. Fuda sues, saying doing so is such a tragic thing to start. He suggests offering leniency and their full cooperation in catching the true killer. Ruka says that brutality is inborn and even with a reason. It's not normal to butcher people so mercilessly. What's more, to take an absolute idiot to surrender so easily from a verbal promise. Shinji gets riled up and insists that people are dying, so they have to act fast on the other hand. Anya would like to focus on those who hurt Yumi, as this is what the demon is after. Jira agrees, adding that the girl's death is the reason the Federation was formed in the first place. The gate is faced with the calamity of the messengers. Unfortunately, this has caused them to turn a blind eye to the many tragedies unfolding in the shadows. Yumi's case shocked the world, but that too was only the tip of the iceberg, and the Federation was created to change that. It's because they were too weak. That evil was allowed to thrive to begin with. Moreover, it's because they weren't. Enough that someone like the Flame Demon had to appear, unable to argue against his logic. They sigh in resignation, and Ruka asks what to do, not particularly against letting criminals die. It said they'll be too late if they act only after civilians start getting hurt. Jiro wonders if his tarot card said anything, but he admits that they haven't gotten that far yet, since his fortune readings are often right. He's told to inform him if anything comes up. When that moment comes, the leader vows to cut the demon down himself. It's a chilling promise, but at the same time, a very realistic one. Ruka honestly couldn't care less about morals or justice, and he only joined the Federation for the benefits he would receive. Back then, he figured that the clueless rich kid would be easy to manipulate. But that changed once the lid was off. Their ranks only go up to at most. But Jira is in an entirely different league as an awakened hunter. Fuda then spoke, asking everyone to calm their heads down for now and hate the crime, instead of hating the person. While the others don't care too much, the leader starts to speak, but is told that they both just want a future where everyone is able to smile, sharing an understanding gaze. Jira agrees to let him handle things and instructs everyone to course new information to him. Later on, Fuda surprises the people in the headquarters by visiting in person, telling them not to mind him. With a smile, he apologizes for barging in so suddenly and asked about the Lee he wanted to be looked into. A staff member spoke, but it's obvious that there was a problem. Apparently, Emma has never shown his face on screen, which would be the easiest way to identify him. As confusion arises, the man decides that it'd be easier to just show him when they tried to analyze the footage. This surprises Jera. Something keeps interfering with the scan and blocking the data. And while they interviewed witnesses, they all gave vague and mixed answers, which eventually ended with them saying they weren't sure of anything. I can't remember anything. And it's as if there was a haze over their brains. Emma held off-contact lenses between his fingers. Anyone wearing them can show their face and still leave no impression, affecting even cameras. People will end up saying that they remember but can't, and saw but couldn't. He finds it amusing how demons play by their own rules. But Vox says it's just a toy the humans can't comprehend, adding on he shares that he was famished. So him getting caught and dying would be a problem for him. If anyone tries to dig into his identity, they'll be served a nice big slice of despair. Back in the control area, the analysis didn't work and no one could remember anything. The staff member apologized as they had absolutely nothing, but his chair, which was being held by Fuda, suddenly cracked under his tight grip. Noticing it, he looks up to face the hunter, and is shocked to see a face so enraged that he couldn't even recognize the Federation executive. Fuda was seething from the tricks Yenme was playing, and the staff turned pale at the face he saw, thinking that the hunter was usually all smiles. Slightly turning his eyes back, he sees the man composing himself and accepting that things will be tough. This time, with another complete 180, he calmly asks them to keep investigating and inform him if anything comes up. Able to catch his breath, he slumps back and calls to his comrade. As he was about to say something, Fuda appeared again, peering over him and asking if he figured something out, and telling him to let him know too. Struck with fear, the staff brushes it off and is told that the hunter has high hopes for someone so competent. Returning to the car, The two-faced executive covered his head and used a familiar technique. Eerie magic spread throughout his entire body, morphing it completely with a new voice. Fuda tells his men to sweep the underground world for information on the flame demon, affirming the command. The secretary corrects herself and addresses Kuro, the very same man who defiled and killed Yumi. Emma was baring his fangs, so he has to corner him. As a member of the Six Ring Blades and a criminal lord, as Vox scoffs at the name, he's told that it's a code for the Federation executives. One for each element. Awakened abilities come in all forms, but every hunter essentially falls into one of the 6 elements. This is basic attribute distribution. But there are some rare cases where mixed or unique attributes appear. That said, things generally align with the user's personality or deepest desires. The demon asks, what would happen if an Earth user suddenly wished to fly in the sky? It's a good question, and one they'll find the answer to soon enough. Resuming his streaming sessions, Emma corners a man in a suit who is backing away in fear, saying hi to his avid viewers. He goes on about the next target's profile, with the camera pointed at his face. Several people recognize the so-called philanthropist. He collects donations for gate orphans, kids whose parents were killed in gate incidents, and personally stepped in to help. However, most of the donations were used for his own game, while the orphans were forced into labor. The Manhwa denies all the claims and demands that he provide proof. The chap blows up, realizing from his reaction that the allegations must be true. After all, their anger and shock make his flames burn stronger. Meanwhile, the businessman understands that he can avoid fighting, and while he continues to reject all claims, summons a water golem to encapsulate his entire body. The chat gets worried, not sure if fire can beat water. It might look like a terrifying power at first, but at the end of the day, it's nothing but a fragile ego pretending to be big. Kawa is hard-headed, desperate, and pathetic, completely removed from water's flexible serenity. In other words, the awakening is a mismatch. Such facades hold no real power. Barely raising his hand, Ember releases so much heat that the water begins to boil, taking the man by surprise. As usual, his target sins will burn them away, and Akawa screamed in pain as he was boiled in his own power. He earlier called the golem advanced magic, but it was a mere low-tier spell meant to intimidate others. The streamer says goodbye to his viewers, who worry about the orphans and decide to send them a donation. Vox is disgusted by the man's despair and asks what his contractor said. To make him shiver, actually, he and Yumi were orphans too, and once spent some time in his facility. He turns away, not explaining any further, and leaving the torched and sorry crew behind. That said, it still fuels his flames. Emma says he's nothing like Akawa, and that the fire he gained through his contract, along with the mechanics of how his power grows stronger. With anger, he promises to take control and master it completely. Vox is surprised to hear him say that he's a fire attribute. He promises to have his back regardless, quietly adding that some people just don't fit in neat little boxes. Such as attributes. Emma moves on, suddenly saying that it was almost time. Looking at Pyrogram, he shares that the name drop seems to have worked, as someone contacted him to discuss something about Rika and Yumi, moving to get things done. He's determined to keep going until every sin has turned to ashes. The demon and his contractor walked the dark alleys, following a request to meet and talk about Yumi's killers. A textbook conquest streamer. That didn't stop her activities. Taking a look at her past recordings, he watches as she looks into the camera and follows provocative requests in exchange for donations. She used to be famous for her skills, but it seems she's changed lanes a bit. Quelling Voxy's curiosity, Emma says she was something like a mentor to his sister. Apparently, she helped her out a lot, and sounds like a decent person at face value. Thinking back, he remembers a ton of spam comments during that day, dragging her through the mud and all coming from a single source. Even the demon has to agree that it doesn't sound like an average troll. They soon reach the agreed upon meeting spot, while they don't know the informant's face. It sounds like a typical small fry that's easily recognizable. At the end of the alley, they see a bunch of people who just match the description. They prey on a small girl, gathering around her and saying walking alone is dangerous, confirming their suspicions. The demon pair sets their target, On the other hand, the two men pester the lady, forcing her to show her face. Just then one manages to pull her hood away and face her head up for a clear view. However, the grand reveal leaves them disappointed as the poor girl cries, trying to cover her scarred face, not getting what they expected. They throw her to the ground in anger, apologizing. She hurried to put her hood on again while the men walked away, but Emma suddenly stopped them from leaving. He says they're in no position to judge other people's faces and that they should look in a mirror first. The two power up insulted and ready for a fight. However, their little power doesn't faze the arsonist, knowing a small spark of his flames will be enough. After all, the fire of despair doesn't disappear just because the stream ends. If anything, they burn hotter as outrage strokes them, fueling even the demon himself. It's not as strong as a live stream blaze, but hot enough to get rid of trash like them. As the pair charged in a blast of flames was shot, boring right through them and sending their bodies ablaze. Quelling the heat, Emma tells them to talk. They looked up at him in confusion, not knowing what he was talking about. So he realized that he must have mistaken them for someone else. To his surprise, a meek voice called to him. It's the girl from before, saying she has the username Doggy, and called him out there. She was still on the floor. She reveals that she saw the hunter meeting with those men. Back then, she secretly followed her and Cairo into an alley and heard them talking about Yumi. Although she wanted to warn someone, she was too scared to speak up, so she slipped into the comments. This confirms that Rika was involved, and now the two are still meeting regularly. That said, it seems like things aren't going well. Sometime before, Rika erupted with anger, telling Cairo that Yumi's Avenger was snooping around. She'd be in deep trouble if they were to somehow find out about her. The man is uncaring, arguing that he was just hired by her, and that she's the one who killed the girl. Met with a disgusting gaze. She insists that she simply wanted to scare the girl, and that he's the one who violated and killed her. He doesn't bother rebutting, and tells her to tell the flame demon about that, and see if he forgives her. After that incident, Cairo demanded hush money regularly. Unfortunately, no matter how much money she earned, he took almost everything. She's fueled with rage, as even then, she was not being left alone to die. The girl curses and calls him garbage, but is told that they're basically cut from the same cloth. Ending the discussion, he tells his men to see her out, offering to protect her in exchange for activities that would make her stomach churn. Just then, the man closest to her has his ear shot off. They all unhand her as she tells them not to touch her. Turning to the walls, Kira sees a hole blasted from the outside. It seems they're getting things twisted. She didn't come there to ask for help and never wanted to be rescued. After all, she's not so far gone down that she needs a bunch of weaklings to protect her. Despite all that, the B ranker is still an interesting one. Back then, Doggy was listening from behind closed doors. Her testimony confirms that they were all still alive. She had hoped to ask him for help, but Felgrim as she stood over her, elated that he can now burn them all down at once. Filled with vengeance, he cackled maniacally. Doggy questions what he intends to do if he does see the two. She used to do stream raids, but messed her face up during a run. Because of that, she gave up on everything and lived in loneliness. One night, the hunter pulled her out of her slump, but more to make her a slave. It was apparent that she wasn't a good person, but regardless, Rika saved her life, so she was indebted to her. With this, he questions why she even came to him in the first place, as she must know that doing so would put her savior's life at risk. She argues that he might get killed if he tries, but he doesn't care much for that, knowing it'll happen eventually. Her grip on him grew loose as she asks if it's really so wrong, especially in a world like theirs, to wish for both good and bad people to survive. It's not wrong, but Yui was already gone, stripped away from that very world. The room falls still and silent. His sister was murdered as if she meant nothing, and pretending that that didn't happen isn't compassion, but just plain weakness. The girl is unable to say anything more, so she hangs her head down in resignation. Rika will be at an event in the wasteland soon. He thanks her for the information, promising to keep in mind that she might have been used to. Doggy gets hopeful and is told that he just needs one thing. If the woman apologizes for what happened to Yumi, even just a word, then he won't kill her. With this agreement, the two part ways for now. Saturday comes, and the event takes place as planned. The wastelands are zones that were heavily contaminated during a gate break disaster. Years ago saturated with dark-type poison and curses, rendering it a dead zone until now. The only ones who live there are rogues, which are resistant to poison and have nowhere else to go. Looking around, Fox asks what he thinks about Doggy, who might be lying and setting him up. He was determined to push through, so they'll just have to find out once they're there. The demon places his bets on things turning out for the worse. Opening the door, Yiname says that's no fun, as there's nothing to agree on if both parties bet on the same side. Inside the venue was a large group of men, obviously up to no good with dirty looks on their faces. The men expecting him charged right in. Reika watched from above with Doggy, saying she didn't expect the flame demon to come alone. Her assistant asks what was happening. Seemingly uninformed about the men who were there, several used their power to crush the weak. Once chaos subsided, those people slipped into shady places such as these, and will still fight with barely any push. Despite everything, she's still a veteran hunter with a wide network of connections. Doggy questions her preparations, as if she knew the demon was going to come to her. Looking down at her assistant, Rika says it's only natural, and expresses her gratitude towards the useful mutt, whose plan she figured out ages ago. With this, the truth behind Yumi's death will stay buried completely, and all she has to do is clean up the corpse. Just then a tower of flames erupted in the middle of the room. Turning her head, she wonders who could have such strong firepower. The answer, of course, is the flame demon who is melting the flesh off his enemies. Emma thanks her, pointing the camera and showing his viewers all the proof they need about her involvement. In Yumi's case, a metal rod stuck out of Doggy's hood. The man announced that she was there when his sister was attacked, and that she killed her with all that. He was sure that she was going to show up eventually. Riyas slowly turned to her assistant, seething and asking why her voice was on his stream. The girl takes the mic out of her clothes and explains that he was going to spare her if she just apologized. She thought she felt guilty and regretted it, maybe even just a little bit, but didn't fail to disappoint, realizing that she had been set up from the beginning. The hunter summons a sword of glowing water, calling to the flame demon. She lunged in to thrust her weapon. Meanwhile, he does his routine of going over her identity and charging her with the crime of murdering Yumi Akaji. Now that everyone has seen what she really is, Rika was just charging in without hesitation and had gone completely out of her mind. Her assistant calls trying to stop her, but her cries fall on deaf ears. As the hunter summons a long rapier to strike, she fights using the water attribute, and given her actual skill, it would put Emma at a disadvantage. Her trademark is a close-range fencing style, which she uses during streams. Deciding to meet her halfway, the demon activates his flames and aims to attack while she's midair. He shoots at her from the ground. The girl burns, hits directly in the chest. Refusing to believe that it's that easy, he puts his guard up immediately. Just then she appears beside him, holding her sword at the ready, thrusting toward his face. She unexpectedly misses the surprise attack, only grazing his cheek with a shallow cut. The assault continued, and so did his swift and agile dodging. Not even getting another cut in, she stops and allows him to back up, thoroughly impressed that he kept his composure despite all that. Moving her blade around, she asks how he caught her ambush. It simply didn't add up for a B ranker. Hunters are ranked from a through F, and those ranked B or higher are basically superhuman. In fact, they are considered to be humanity's frontline force, both in power and population. That's what it means to be a B ranker. What's more, she's a seasoned streamer. With cameras rolling, there's no way she would act so pathetic. So it's an obvious ploy to throw her enemies off. She acknowledges that he's good, but only gives him 50 points for the deduction. Summoning another aqua weapon, she slices the air and summons a thick layer of water to obstruct the arsonist's sight, appearing behind him. She agrees to give him a full score if he figures out how she moves, striking through. Rika attacks him from his blind spot and lands a direct hit. Emma is sent back, and even Vox has to agree that she's quite skilled, more than being experienced. She's likely used to facing off against flommers in the chat, is to try to explain oneself. Doing so only makes the person look like they're making excuses and getting mad. Would only have people twisting the emotions and mocking you. However, if you cry, you'd be labeled as a sly person who's playing the victim. One can easily get caught in this trap. Then the audience just runs out of steam. The fire eventually goes out. If they stay calm, the thicker their skin is. She carries 2 blades and smiles, saying, "His flame has cooled down quite a bit." After that exchange, the little arsonist wasn't looking too hot. Vox excitedly asks what his plan is now. But there's only one thing to do. He'll just have to change the wind's direction. Figuring out how she instantly shifted positions is still hard, but he's figured out a way to counter it. He places his hand on the ground, which turns red as the heat seeps into it, turning into steaming purgatory. The fire spreads around quickly. She notices the floor start to melt from the full field barrage. Confident that such tricks won't stop her, she appears in the young man's blind spot, but quickly falls back as she's hit with a scalding gust of steam. He's superheating her water with his flames and wrapping the hot gas around him like armor. Things might not be in his favor, but the air today was dead, still perfect for one who wields fire. With this, he welcomes her to the ultimate sauna of hell, an actual saunus. The heat feels much more intense when water is poured onto stones, as the heat settles straight into one's body. Thanks to latent heat from the steam, the burn hits the skin directly. She's for sure going to get scorched. It's now his turn to mock her. So he asks why the rookie killer was looking a little pale. The label makes her flinch, and the tiny reaction doesn't miss his perceptive eyes, still watching from his stream. The audience tells him to find the cracks and finish it. They cheer and rage, demanding that she pay the price for her sins. Blazing in hatred, he sets off to start with round 2. But the audience doesn't fall for her bluffs at all. Emma is still on guard, well aware that she was up to something. But what just then, someone in the chat spoke up. The desperate expression on her face disappears, and she uses a basic water skill to jump back and gain distance. In an instant, he realizes that this is how she got behind him, but he knows better now and won't let her escape. Rika says she wasn't running, as she knew that she'd get hit if she turned her back. Just then, she points her fingers at him and summons several muskets of water, aiming it right at the flame demon, reacting as fast as possible. Emma is barely able to raise his arms to defend. Apparently, she only switched to close combat swordsmanship for views. She specialized in suppressive fire and long-range battles. But that wasn't exciting for viewers. The hits make him stagger, living a life that left her cage. What she wanted when she awakened was one simple thing. It was the power to pierce through anything. Like how rain drills its way into solid stone. She fires again, sending countless water bullets at Emma. Amused, Vox laughs at the hidden trick. But it doesn't matter. Since the bullets aren't faster than an actual firearm, it won't be that simple. Since shooting head on isn't the only option she has either, using the water jets to dash. She closes the gap between them. This time he uses purgatory to send her back, but she's unfazed and continues moving forward. To his confusion, she rushes past him, instead running straight for the building entrance behind. Both men are puzzled as to why she would box herself in. They found themselves deep underground, with only one way in and tons of places to hide. He was like a fish in a barrel, and one wrong move would have him riddled with holes. Emma is annoyed by her ploy. So Vox asks if he knows the real difference between him and her, enlightening the oblivious young man. He says it's the skill. Awakened abilities are born from someone's deepest wishes, so they're wildly unique and seriously powerful. On the other hand, while his fire tricks are creative for sure, their strength is not even close to a real skill. There's no point in moping around. So the demon has a tip for him. The arsonist ability has a secret feature. Vox reveals that if he burns a powerful awakened into ash, his current enemy is the prime candidate to absorb. In other words, he needs to beat someone of B rank or higher to take their skill. The contractor sighs in frustration, as he should have mentioned this earlier. Simply put, if he beats Rika, who is waiting for him to come in, he gets her skill, it's perfect. To his surprise, VX says he must be dumber than he looks. and reminds him that he's already burned a high-ranking hunter to ash. Thinking about it, he says there's no way and that he doesn't remember anyone. Prepared to take the challenge, he stands before the underground entrance, even streaming it for his enemies' viewing. She calls him an idiot, but Yeneme still brazenly walks into the trap. The sniper smiled widely and told him to regret his foolishness in hell. Aiming well, the water muskets are fired right at the target, and she smiles in satisfaction as she watches them hit. However, her eyes widened in shock upon seeing him wield a flaming scythe. He once heard that there was no heaven or hell, and when people die, they all just become ash, just like his sister when he incinerated her. Now it's time for Reika's sins to be burned away, and Mi uses the learned skill, Levi ablaze, and summons a blazing scythe, making him resemble a grim reaper from the burning depths of hell. Skills are what the awakened ones obtain, or acquire during the growth process, and there are a wide variety in the world. It's a general term for special abilities, and their source is sheer human desire. The nature and performance of these skills depend on the user's true attribute, as well as the wishes they hold in their hearts. They can be used to create weapons with magical energy, enhance and manipulate them as combat techniques, or even release them as magical spells. It follows a 3-level tier system of basic, intermediate, and advanced techniques. Simply put, the higher the tier, the more powerful it is more often than not. The visual impact is also proportional to the power. There are even detailed rules for other skills, which are now widely spread on the internet. Many hunters are desperately seeking to enhance their skills, but in reality, advanced skills only manifest in those blessed with innate talent, only high-ranking individuals. However, Vox doesn't know, nor does he care about the rules of human society. As such, the demon invites his contractor to be free and run unbound. With a blazing scythe, Emma blocks the water bullets coming his way, spinning it around with unmatched skill. It was as if he was hell's devil incarnate. On the other hand, Reika was incredulous, refusing to believe that he was wielding advanced magic. Such users, with a few exceptions, are all top-ranking hunters, a privilege of talented humans. What's more, Emma's movements aren't amateurish at all, and are that of an experienced hunter. To be someone of that caliber, you should have some type of reputation, and yet she's never heard of such a skill. The only thing the side resembles is Yumi's advanced lightsaber technique. It was like an exact copy, except one that was defiled and corrupted into something darker. The eeriness makes her panic, and she questions just what type of relationship the two had, sending waves of heat throughout the room. Emma says there's no need for her to know. Even if she did, his precious sister won't come back to life. Neither will the honor they took from her. Even if she dies, Yumi won't be able to smile anymore, as such without any meaning, value, or story. The only thing left for her to do was suffer and turn to ashes. Using his learned skill, he pulls his new weapon back and clads it in a layer of blaze, filled with fear and terror. Rika finally loses the confidence in her face. Showing herself, she screams at him to wait. He hesitates for a moment, wondering what she has to say. But the girl suddenly speaks gibberish and lets her pistols fire uncontrollably. Dozens of bullets fly at him, but his expression remains unbothered, mimicking his precious sister's movements. He grips the handle tight and skillfully wields the scythe to deflect, block, and dodge the attacks. Rika can't believe it and insists that it's all a lie. She kept firing despite gradually falling into despair by the second, questioning if she really did something so bad. She argues that there are much worse people in the world, and that she just worked hard, always suffering and filthy. The woman did what she could to make in life, but her success was always overtaken by someone from below. Even when she changed methods and played dirty, she was then exploited by those above her. Someone else was being praised, leaving her losing out on what she worked for. That said, her turn should have come one day, but it never did. Filled with rage, she unleashes a barrage of bullets, again screaming her troubles away. Emma appears beside her in a flash. Slashing at her body, he says that her turn did come, but adds that it ended a long time ago. Burning still cut through her body, and the vile hunter burst into flames. Her body is devoured by a tower of raging fire, brought by the collected anger surging in Emma's being. In the end, her sins will turn her into ashes just like the others. The flames subside, leaving Rika a steaming and charred mess on the ground, seeing that she's still breathing. The viewers wonder if she survived by blocking the heat with water. Even Vox is curious. So he asked his contractor if she actually defended, or if he let her live. Holding both veteran experience and the water attribute, she's definitely not weak enough to die instantly. That said, it'll only allow her to suffer more. Emma understands the logic behind it, but since she seems to know quite a bit, he decides to ask her body directly. The woman speaks, but it's too quiet for them to hear. She repeats herself, now screaming for Doggy to come and answer her master. Desperate, she commands her assistant to stop hiding and help. Vox whines, complaining that she's tainting her despair with even more corrupt actions. Despite their betrayal, the girl heeds her call and appears by her side. Rika cackles, asking who picked her from the curb of the street when everyone abandoned her. Adding on, she questions who made it possible for her, a dumb orphan, to make a living. Doggy answers both with her name, stating it as a matter of fact. The heinous hunter says she'll be all alone again if she dies to the demon. Both the audience and Vox attest. The woman who is acting without a shred of grace in Mackheim's, in saying he took the liberty of looking into her profile as well. She was indeed an orphan holding the dark attribute, but he'll keep her name private for now. The audience have mixed reactions, with some wanting to hear it, while others say it should be a secret. After an accident during a conquest, she was left with scars all over her body. The poor girl was trapped under a huge boulder when goblins jumped her with their sharp swords. That day she barely got away with her life, but covered her body and withdrew from the public eye, with more than 500,000 followers. In the past, he decides to keep that private as well. Her case is much like Yumi's, where Rika preyed on a rookie pretending to be their friend. It's too convenient of an explanation. The woman, still lying on the floor, demands to know if he has any evidence, but smiles secretly as she's already destroyed everything to keep her servant under control. She can't defy her and will be used as a shield to help her get away. Just then, Chico says she knew. Standing at ease, she says she knew everything, including the fact that her injuries are Rika's fault. The hunter calls it all nonsense, but the victim's nose is better than most people's. It was faint, but she definitely smelled her scent when the accident happened, despite being hidden from her vision. She knew she was conniving with a man behind her back. The poor girl didn't tell the police. Then no one would have died. If she just wasn't so weak, then Yui would still be alive by now. Seeing her cry, enrage Rika, who tells her to stop pretending to be nice since she's just as guilty. Agreeing with her, Chico lowers herself and bows to the flame demon, asking him to end things once and for all. The hunter lashes out in anger, questioning why she was taking her down with her, and saying she can't pretend to be a human with a face as monstrous as hers. Just then her barking stops as a hot pain comes to her stomach, brought by the size sharp tip, asking if she needs more scars. He drags the blade across her body, ignoring her pleas for mercy. Rika weeps and screams, telling him to stop, but he doesn't care and says that her turn is over already. With this, he unleashes his power and consumes her in a fiery blaze. Vox nearly squealed in delight, relishing every drop of despair that she was letting out, and the arsonist into the stream, saying he'll see his viewers next time as usual. Done with all that, he moves on to the assistant, who is trembling on the ground. He recalls her words, saying, still bowing, she acknowledges it as her weakness. Emma says she isn't weak. She's so surprised that she raises her head. Despite all that, she still tried to save Yumi. She cries, seeking death, as she no longer has anyone to live for. That's what Rika said, but there are still people who care about her. He kneels to meet her gaze. Someone like him might not be the best person, but he wants her to live and be happy with her life. The little girl falls into a fit of tears, unaccustomed to such gentle warmth. He leaves her there, letting all her emotions out. Vox asks if he's so kindly projecting his little sister onto her, following the contact lenses rule. Anyone wearing them won't leave an impression, even if they show their face to the camera. In other words, she'll forget him too. but wonders if she'll remember the happiness he wished for her. The demon thinks about it for a moment, and eventually shrugs his shoulders, mischievously saying he doesn't know exactly. Chico is A.B. Ranker, whose skill gives her the characteristics of a dog, gaining their physical abilities. As a side effect, her constitution becomes canine-like, which, according to research, determines and remembers things by smell hierarchy, territory, and even bonds. There are connections far stronger than visual memory, and this seems to be the case this time. Not telling Emma about this, Vox asked about the information he was supposed to get from Rika, while talking about how they killed her. In the heat of the moment, loud alarms suddenly blared. They both turned to see megaphones, announcing that a monster has escaped from a gate, and calling for people to evacuate. Hearing this, civilians soon rushed away, fleeing for their lives. Vox is exasperated by the noise and wants to leave it to the hunters, but Emma was already running to respond, saying it's his choice as well. In that area, there's a restaurant that he and Yumi love. The sentimental brother rushes, wanting to at least keep the memories intact. The demon sighs again, unable to understand humans no matter how much he tries. Regardless, this too is going to be interesting, especially with a new player nearby. Emma asks Yumi if she's fine there, adding that they can eat somewhere nicer for her birthday. With a bright smile, a little sister says she likes it there, since the food is good after all. Despite this, he regrets not being more responsible and failing to celebrate her special day. The lights went off all of a sudden, and the owner approached with a large strawberry cake, wishing the girl a happy birthday. It's fairly modest, but the gift makes her squeal in delight. Emma apologizes, saying they didn't order the cake, but is told not to worry as it's on the house. After all, his restaurant brightens up whenever she's there. The old man pats their heads, wishing them the best like they're his own children, filled with a joyous atmosphere. They only confirmed that going to that shop was the right choice. Now Emma was running as fast as he possibly could, desperate to keep that memory safe. Of all the places, why did a leakage need to happen there? Monsters don't normally come out from inside the gates. When messengers of heaven appear and blow their trumpets, all gates automatically open. Until then, there shouldn't be any danger outside the gate. Or so they thought. A hunter stood in front of paparazzi, proudly showing a live goblin he trapped in a cage. If certain conditions are met, one can trigger a leak which would have a wave of monsters. In the real world, that knowledge was used to prevent accidents from happening. An advanced monster-related research. However, there are bad people as well. Back then, prison escapees once took refuge in a gate. A police squad was waiting outside, expecting a bunch of human criminals to come and surrender. But they fall into shock as they see ghouls rush out. That's when people use the information for their personal gain. Whether this new leak was accidental or planned, they still don't know. Huge hornets and praying mantises appeared, wreaking havoc in the city. Pulling his arm back, Emma punched forward, unleashing a blast of flames at the monsters. He makes it just in time before they destroy the restaurant, precious to him and his sister. Plastered on the door was a notice saying the manager was on temporary leave. Vox mockingly pokes at him, but is brushed off by the contractor. Moving on, he's told that while he can do whatever he wants with his power, it attracts too much attention. However, there's no need to worry, as his flames will blend right in with the tower of fire in the city. Civilians point and smile, saying the fire attribute user was there. A bright and energetic voice thanked everyone for waiting and said, "They're safe now." Shinji had arrived, so there was no need to worry anymore. Although young and still in high school, he was a rank fire attribute hunter. The monsters try to fight, but the young man breathes in with focus, gathering passionate heat inside his body. He's clad in a bright and nearly golden aura, which heats the air around him. Watching them approach, he uses his mid-tier ability, Fistignes, to deliver a deep punch into the enemy's body with swift and fluid movements. He strikes each and every monster present, but those who know better tell them to watch. The real value of the boy's skill is in the follow-up. Amantis, seeing that it was still okay, attacked the hunter, who didn't even turn to face it. Instead, Shinji clenched his fist, commanding his power to burst forth, as the man said. The targets hit earlier explode, as the fire planted by his fist combust, leaving them engulfed in flames. The hunter moved on to the next site. It's strong for sure, but such shiny flames are not up to Voxy style. Emma agrees and decides to leave the monsters to him, as running into each other would be messy. Just then they hear an ear-piercing shriek in the middle of the street. A young woman was being preyed on by a huge centipede monster. She screamed, begging for help. The demon tells his contractor to just leave her, but he's already running to save her life. He was about to unleash a huge strike when the oversized insect raised its body to attack. As he sent a fiery blast through its body, another jet of flames hit the enemy. Surprised, he stays still on the ground for now. Like Vox mentioned, even if he didn't do it, Shinji would have come to save her life, seeing his face and powers, while the centipede monster turned to ashes. The girl ran away and the two fire users stood off. Shinji of the 6 ring blades was a pure hunter, standing at the pinnacle of fire abilities like him, considering how beat up and exhausted Emma was from the battle with Rika. He knows he can't take him on right now. The young man squints while looking at his face, and the flame demon realizes that he must not recognize him because of his disguising powers. He pretends to be a civilian and speaks like a fan, but Shinju suddenly asks if he's the vigilante they're all looking for. And Mayfi's is not understanding how he knows he isn't Ruka, who has the divination skill, but given the properties of the awakened. Sensing danger, he immediately backs away, not expecting such a thing to even be possible. Standing on guard, he says he won't be taken in without even a proper fight. The hunter then waves his hands, asking him to wait and saying he's got it all wrong. A fight is something they both want to avoid. So he joyfully asked him to speak at a nearby playground. Although left confused, Emma humors the suggestion and finds himself being handed a cold drink and thanked for fighting for the town. Shinji sits beside him, saying he's still a student, so he can't buy him something too big yet. Surprisingly, the two end up talking calmly, despite supposedly being on opposing sides. The vigilante asks if it's okay for such a figure to be talking to a criminal. He'd definitely be scolded if Jiro found out, so he decides to just keep it a secret. The hunter then shares that the leakage was an accident during a conquest with no criminal intent. All monsters have been eliminated with no records of casualties. Yanime sighs a breath of relief upon hearing this, which only confirms Shinji's thoughts that he isn't a bad person. After all that said, it's not all that simple and black and white. Suddenly standing up with passion, he says he's heard about the man's reason for fighting and considers it understandable. All his targets have been criminals, some of which had crimes the guild overlooked, which was the case with Rika. Because of his actions, more crimes are being uncovered one after the other. He laughs, adding that even the guy in the information center was shocked. While murder is definitely wrong, he still can't label the vigilante a bad person. In fact, talking like that made it feel like they could even be friends. Studying him, and Ma decides to accept his kind sentiments. The moonlight shone at them, and the two spent some time sharing their drinks and talking. It was nice, and after going through so much, he couldn't remember the last time he spoke so casually like that. Just then Shinji addressed him seriously and sincerely, asked if he could stop his trail of revenge. Seeing the flame demon's confusion, he says, the guild is also pursuing the criminals with all of their might, so he doesn't need to dirty his hands. He won't ask about his relationship with Yumi, but is sure that she wouldn't want his hands dirty. Emma speaks, calling the boy a good person, but that's exactly why it's a shame. Shinji frowns, not knowing what he means by this. Unfortunately, they aren't able to continue their conversation, as the hunter receives an emergency summons and is forced to run and answer the call, told that they can talk again sometime. The arsonist looks at his phone, saying it might be sooner than he expects. The arsonist returns to the middle of the city. He rushes to them asking what was happening, but her sources are random people on the internet, in a panic over the chaos. They say he must still be nearby and urge the hunter to catch him, certain of the supposed demon's morals. He asks everyone to calm down. Everyone turns stone-faced just as he says that they might be mistaken. Their expressions make him freeze. And it turns worse as they question if he, a public worker, was defending a criminal, now being pushed and pressured. The situation worsens as those online join this idea. Turning pale, the boy starts to panic, not knowing what to do. when a familiar figure suddenly walks into the street. Yaname appeared with a smile and his usual greeting, taking everyone's attention. He made it clear who he was. So the people demanded that he be eliminated. The people then directed their anger towards him, accusing the man of causing the leakage. He thinks about it for a while and says they wouldn't believe him, even if he denied the allegations, confirming that they wouldn't. The arsonist says they're being far too stupid, even putting on a demeaning face. The comments rage, saying he doesn't even feel a tinge of remorse. Meanwhile, Shinji realizes that he's protecting him and taking the heat for himself. Emma doesn't need honor and doesn't care if it's a false accusation. He sends a wave of flames at the angry civilians, who are forced to run for their lives. The hunter defends using basic magic to erect a barrier of fire, despite getting along earlier. The two of them live in different worlds. The comments rage Shinji while wanting only peace, understands that they both have something to protect. At the end of it, all this is how things should be between them. Standing against each other and fighting for different things is exactly how their position should be. The two young men could have been friends. Unfortunately, fate forces them to stand against each other on opposing sides. Both burn passionately, but with different reasons that fuel their flames. The civilians called to the hunter, telling him to arrest the criminal who caused the leakage. With them, their talking peacefully was no longer an option. As Emma said earlier, he wasn't someone they could just stop burning. Different hues of red, the two fire attributes are left with no choice. Shinji leaps high, finally seeing the demon as his enemy, and clenches his fist to deliver a punch. They clash, sparks and embers fly at first, but the exchange soon turns into a full-on explosion. The normal people run hit with the heat emanating from their attacks. The young hunter's flames are direct and intense, something anyone would admire for its beauty. Emma swings and send him back with his own fire. And one would question why someone with such flames would allow himself to be consumed by rage. On the contrary, the demon obtained his art and flames for the sole purpose of revenge. A few well-versed onlookers note that Shinji must be looking for a follow-up. After a punch lands a set time, or command activates a secondary burst. But this has a weakness with the explosion planted in the side. The hunter triggers the combustion, but Emma throws his weapon at the opponent. It's too close to the ability user, and he's at risk of being blown up by his own ability. The 6-ring blades are a serious threat. He studied them all in advance. Things quickly take a bad turn for Shinji, who can't dodge as the weapon will hit the civilians. However, if he does cancel his skill, the demon will take that opening to strike back. Refusing to be done in with such a trick, he deflects the scythe high into the sky, where the pent-up fire explodes like a huge firework. Emma was still looking up, surprised by the quick reaction, when the hunter instantly closed the gap between them, pulling his blazing fist back. He's sure the man can't block it. This time the target manages to dodge, but the hit catches and burns through his coat. Unfortunately, even that much is enough to plant the combustion. The people cheered upon seeing this. Although the power dropped as it wasn't a direct hit, Emma recovers fast, but the damage was piling up. With the one from Rika's fight, he countered the follow-up by releasing flames of his own, but he was gradually reaching his limit and his opponent knew. Fighting the water user and now a fire attribute, who's likely at par with him, and doing so in a completely hostile environment, with all that he can't possibly perform at his best. He gives him one last chance to surrender, already knowing the outcome. Emma laughs and says he's far too soft, crushing each other completely. That was the only path for them to take. Shinji accepts his sentiments and rushes in an instant wanting to end it with this. He charges his fist with his blaze and drives it right into his opponent's gut. The embers and sparks fly, as the demon is sent flying far back from the force of the hit. The onlookers cheer, sure that it made direct contact. This time he activates the follow-up. But Emma just smiled despite the glowing spot in his chest, moments away from blowing up. Shinji doesn't know what, but realizes that there was something wrong. The camera streaming the fight is cut off, and the thousands of viewers gasped in surprise, believing that the hunter had finished the demon off for good. On the ground was the candy, handed to Yaname as a sign of their friendship. Smoking from heat meanwhile, The flame demon looked at his phone and the comments, assuming his death staggering in the alley. He can't help but acknowledge the boy's powerful fists, even without their flames. Fortunately, his plan worked. He lured Shinji's attack into his stomach and absorbed the charge with the kin. He hid in his coat after throwing it before the follow-up came. He managed to avoid serious injury, but couldn't come out completely unscathed. Vox cackled, saying he would have gotten a bigger reaction if he killed the young hunter. That said, Shinji was likely holding back, not wanting to burn the city with his advanced skill. They should be grateful to have even escaped. Besides, someone as straightforward as that boy shouldn't be sacrificed for his revenge. The demon clicks his tongue in disappointment and calls him boring. Left alone, Shinji thinks about ENMA and how much potential there was in his flames. It was a strange and rejecting fire, one that might turn him to ash the next time they meet. Just then someone appeared and called to him. It was Fuda, saying he came late as he was stuck at the publishing company. He heard that in addition to monsters, the flame demon appeared as well. With an eerie expression, he asked the boy to tell him more about it, telling him the story. Shinji apologizes for hesitating and letting him get away. But now, after exchanging punches and talking, he understands that the man is not an evil person, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. Fuda says he looks at things straightforwardly. If someone like him feels that way, maybe they were wrong all along. With that said, he suggests that the Federation start protecting the criminals instead, while the boy looked up at him in confusion. The hunter's grip on his shoulder tightened. His arm transformed, and he announced that ENMO will be persecuted for the murder of Shinji, with his guard down completely. The fire user is hit and sent crashing into the wall. Judas says the enemy needs to keep his image as a villain, his face and body morph with 0 victims. It's hard to frame his target as an evil person. Kuro undoes his disguise and reveals himself, annoyed by the kid who pretends to be righteous. Seeing that the Arranker's body was crushed, he leaves to hopefully catch up to Emma and eliminate him too. Just then, Shinji's body burst into flames as he released his power and launched a counterattack. The punch is blocked, but was strong enough to push the enemy back. The young man curses him, recognizing him as the mastermind behind Yumi's foul death. He attacks again, questioning what he did to Fuda. What he fails to understand is that Kuro didn't steal that identity from the very start. The Six Blades author and intellectual was him all along. The two clash, and the evil man smiles upon seeing the naive. He lectured others so passionately, but was apparently harboring a criminal himself. Now, he can't even show his face to the flame demon, but Kuro says he won't have to worry about that, since they won't be meeting again, refusing to let that happen. Shinji erupts with power and supercharges his fist with his flames. A few hits land on the enemy's body, then a few more on the face, but they're so weak that he barely flinches from the force. Backing away, he jumps back in to even add a kick to the back of the head. He gained some distance and could tell from the resistance that the man was strong, but he should still fall to this method of stacking the charges. The 9 hits explode, and Kiro's body is lifted by the blazing flames of his power. Shinji staggers in exhaustion. It was supposed to be over, but a voice speaks confidently, standing in the middle of the raging heat. Kuro reveals that fire doesn't work on him. From far away, Emma sees an enormous blast of flames in the middle of the city. He recognizes his would-be friend's power. Suddenly, Vox feels something and tells him to prepare himself. Before he could ask, the answer came as a deluge of despair. Spite and hate crashed into his body. The anger was overflowing. So he looked at his phone and saw posts pinning Shinji's death on him. He can't believe that someone so strong would be defeated so easily. A post makes his stomach churn, as it shows an explicitly horrifying photo of the boy's dead body. Emma's heart drops as the image was uncannily similar to how Yumi looked in her final moments. With this, he recognizes the killer. A post shows Shinji's gruesome corpse, saying he was found dead from cardiac arrest 8 minutes ago. A bunch of armed thugs forced civilians into an alley. Before them was Kuro, who was standing over the high schooler's dead body. He turns to face the people, who then recognize him as the same man from the Yumi incident. His face was beaten and in tatters. Obviously from a fight, the criminal says their job is simple as They just have to spread the word that the flame demon killed the boy. One woman screams in rejection and tries to run, as she questions why she had to. However, she doesn't get far as Kuro suddenly instantly blocks her way, while her face was pale with fear. His was dark and void of mercy. Placing his hand on her head, he uses his metamorphosis. She bubbles and screams upon his touch, and soon enough falls to the ground as a gloopy mass of flesh. His rare attribute and skill allows him to freely transform his body. Having made an example, he tells the others not to make a noise or question their orders. They look at the woman, now a mismatched mixture of meat and organs. Kuro demands absolute obedience, and without another word, they all rush to Shinda's body to take photos. Their fingers move fast, creating posts to accuse and frame the flame demon for the murder. Watching them move like a farm of trolls, a female student shudders, unable to do it so readily like they are. A man clutches her arm, begging her to just do it as they have to protect themselves first. The woman who turned to goop was reverted back and was now taking photos. Meanwhile, the thugs watched in amazement at how their boss power worked. One man encourages them all to stick it out until help arrives. He isn't sure if it will come, but the strongest hunter Jira should respond sooner or later. Unfortunately, the top ranker is conquering a gate and won't be back for several days. While the two are talking, the man suddenly gets hit hard with a bat from behind, saying he doesn't need a reason to do what he wants. The girl scowls and balls her fist, seemingly ready for a fight, but notices something on the other side of the alley. Insulted by her actions, the thug attacks and fails to notice the ball of flame behind him. It hits the ground with a small explosion, but causes the other criminals to be engulfed in fire. Realizing the dangers of the situation, he flees and leaves his companions without hesitation. The fire dies down as the burning men fall limp. With this, Emma emerges and is revealed to be their savior. Despite this, public sentiment is still against him, and the civilians blame the demon for their situation, ignoring their cries. He stepped forward and with a cold expression asks where Kuro went. Their bravery and anger turn into fear, so they point in a direction and say his target went that way. Turning to Shinji, he calmly asks them to take care of the boy's body. Enro runs to chase after his sister's killer, but he had no intention of doing so. Shinji is one of the nation's strongest hunters, and the only one who could defeat him and leave such marks was Kuro. With that said, he should understand that he's chasing after a man, and maggot his teeth, even knowing that he can't turn his back on the soul. Target of his revenge, Vox can't help but stop following. Meanwhile, the criminal walks in frustration, noting that Shinji resisted more than he expected, causing him to lose track of the arsonist. Despite what happened, he looks like he doesn't have a care in the world. On the other hand, Emma was speeding through the alleys and streets, desperately looking for that one man. He reaches a corner, the very same one Kuro was walking towards. Emma recalls one of the kidnapped men telling him where Kuro is. Emma believes he has the element of surprise by punching Emma in the face. Despite seeing a complete stranger, Zero is just pissed off enough to hit anyone, and does not care that he will end up dead. He is taken by surprise, as not only does the man block his punch, but he also puts his hand into flames. Emma tightens his grip on him and activates his power, which puts the enemy's body into flame. He keeps putting more power into the flames. Engulfing Cairo, even more, Vox praises Emma for his quick attack. However, Kuro simply grabs Emma's head and pins him to the ground. The villain tells him that fire does not work on him. He picks up Emma and lifts him up off the ground. Then he throws him, making him slam into a wall. Emma gets back up, surprised that his attacks do not work on him, despite not even sensing any water attribute skill from him. Hero remains engulfed in fire, yet stays standing as if nothing is happening to him. Vox warns his partner not to take the guy lightly, despite his musclehead appearance. Hero explains that no flame can reach him no matter how hot, because he covers his body with porous calcium. Looking closely, his skin is covered with a waxy substance that is now cracking. He asks Emma who he is and which organization he came from. Emma does not answer. Hero remembers from headquarters the information that no one remembers: what the flame demon looks like. He deduces that the man in front of him is the flame demon. Emma stands up to be ready for the next round. Vox asks why he will continue if fire does not work on him, and accuses him of being an idiot. Emma replies that all he needs to do is stab him with a blade for him, to burn him from the inside. To do this, he summons the Levy of Blaze, his signature side. Kuro recognizes the weapon as something Yumi also used, and says that all losers do the same things. This makes Emma angry, who charges at him. No matter how many times he swings, Kuro just evades without effort. It reaches the point that Kuro gets cornered against a vending machine. Yaname sees his chance, but he only cuts the vending machine in two, and jumps towards Emma with his boot first. Emma sees this as his chance, and materializes 3 floating muskets to shoot him. On his way down, Emma screams that he will turn him into ash. Emma recalls that he gained the 3 muskets skill from Ryuka, and expects that he can fire flame bullets, with excellent penetration power from it. He is, however, shocked to realize that he can't fire any bullets. Vox tells him that he can't execute the move, because his body is already at its limit. Meanwhile, Kuro drops onto his spot, pulverizing the ground beneath. He, however, sees that Yaname avoided the attack. Despite this, he can tell from his exhausted look that he can no longer make powerful flames. Hiro approaches him slowly, while mocking him for being weak. He grabs him by the neck and lifts him off the ground. Yaname tells him that he will not let himself be killed by him. Hiro responds that he has no intention of letting him off that easily. He explains that he wants him to experience the entire world as his enemy. Everywhere people are looking at their phones and computers, and are judging the flame demon as a terrible person. Hiro reminds him that he has no single ally now. He envisions the flame demon struggling homeless in an alleyway, and dying alone while rats come for his body. He prophesies that it is the loneliness that will kill him. Kuro tells him that the only way to escape that fate is for him to abandon his revenge. Yaname replies that he will regret letting him live, since he will go after him as long as he can move. Kuro sees how resolute his eyes are, and threatens to blind him with his mighty fingers. Suddenly, Kuro senses danger coming. Doggy is jumping on top of buildings in her wolf hybrid form. In a rush to get to them, he reaches their location and howls, with so much noise that Kuro covers his ears. This leads him to drop Emma. Doggy then jumps towards Kuro and kicks him. The force of that sends the big man slamming into a wall and into the other side. Doggy tells Emma that she smelled his scent and came after him. She recalls him telling her he wants her to be happy. She screams that he is the only one who ever said something like that to her, and so she won't let him die. She names her combat technique the Bee Syndrome. For the first time, Vox reviews that her ability is the powers of a canine predator, and that her physical attributes are greatly enhanced, as long as her magic energy lasts. The demon recalls that in ancient times, humans called it divine possession. Emma questions what he is talking about, when the awakened only appeared years ago. Vox has a knowing glance while he looks at him, and is seemingly sarcastic, as the demon tells him that they might have popped up in human history. From time to time, Emma is annoyed that he's always avoiding answering his questions, and sees that he knows more than he lets on. The worried Doggy approaches Emma. The man thanks her for saving him, as they almost get hit by a rock thrown at them. Hiro comes out of the wall, recognizing Doggy as Rika's servant. He mocks the girl for already being loyal to a new master. Hours after her last one's death, Doggy screams her loud howl again. This time Kuro is ready for him and shields his shield with a hard, waxy rock material with his power. The caveat is that he can't hear what the two are discussing in front of him. Suddenly Daichi carries Yaname and jumps up onto the building tops. Kuro realizes that they had a strategy meeting. When he could not hear them, he enhances his legs with his power, and then jumps up high over buildings. Meanwhile, Doggy is still jumping from one building to another. She feels embarrassed that Emma can tell that she smells like a dog. Emma wants to say that she does not smell bad, but can't smell anything while the girl is moving. Vox jokes that he should tell her even if he knows Doggy can't see him. Doggy's dog Years sense someone coming. She moves away at the last second, before a blast destroys a building she was near. Looking closely, Cairo is the blast that merely stepped on the building wall, and he is moving in fast to catch up to them. Doggy promises never to let him near them and moves faster. The girl gets tired, and they fall onto a highway. She turns back into her normal human form, now that she has run out of magic. Kuro is already above them, and he dives down to stomp on them. He lands, but surprisingly, Yaneme is a distance away from him, and is confident that he just put Kuro right where he wants him. Turns out Yaneme simply created a heat haze that caused a temporary illusion of himself, where Kuro landed aside from that. He also melted the asphalt under the villain's feet, making him stuck. Kuro is both stuck and sinking while the asphalt just gets hotter. The highway road suddenly collapses around him, making him fall as he drops. He screams at the flame demon. Cairo made a hard shell barrier that protected him from the fall. Being forced to use it makes the villain feel shame. He breaks his shell casing and proceeds to unleash his wrath on the flame demon. All he can think of is catching him and his new servant, so he can torment them. He then realizes that the flame demon's face is already disappearing in his mind despite this. His resolve to catch him is not dispelled. He recalls how Doggy approached him, as if she remembered the flame demon, and wonders how she did it. His thought gets distracted as he realizes he reeks of oil. It leads him to realize that Doggy must have used her sense of smell to remember the flame demon. Reviewing that, a dog's sense of smell is 1,000,000 times stronger than a human's. He knows this must be it. He uses his power to change his head to that of Canine, while recalling all the times he got near the flame demo. He came to memorize his scent. He proclaims that there is no way he can forget him now. He smiles thinking his enemy got too cocky. Meanwhile, he notices that onlookers are taking videos of him. With their cell phones, Kuro approaches them with a plan to kill them, as a gift for the flame demon. He readies himself by making his right arm muscular. He then notices that the onlookers are looking up. An arrow of light suddenly drops from the sky. Kira looks up and sees that the sky is raining arrows of light. They're dropping towards him. He does not worry as he makes a rock shield band with his power. The arrow drops on him, but it is like he is carrying an umbrella against the rain. Kuro knows that Jira is on the rooftop of a distant building. Anya is with Jira on the rooftop using a telescope to watch over Cairo. She tells Jira that he just needs to keep hitting the criminal at the spot she told him. Two of their subordinates ask them to stop, since Jira is not supposed to show himself in public. Yet Anya argues that if they had not stopped Cairo, the onlookers would have been dead by now. Jira tells them that protecting the civilians is more important than his secrecy. He materializes a bow, an arrow made of light, and aims it high. He shoots, and it reaches the magic circle in the sky. It leads the circle to drop more arrows on Kuro at a greater speed. Kuro laughs at his predicament. He admits that the only reason he has not seized the world yet is because of Jira. His face gets filled with veins just thinking about him. However, he realizes that if he is attacking him now, it means even a hunter as powerful as Jira has retreated from his gate mission. He ponders what this means and looks forward to the explanation. Suddenly, Kuro punches the ground, creating a tremor that makes the onlookers run away. Giant roots and branches come out of the ground to shield the onlookers away from Kuro. They look behind them and see that Fuda is responsible. Inside the surface of Fuda is Kuro, who is controlling plants with his power to manipulate living bodies. He boasts to himself that his skill has no weakness. Unbeknownst to Kuro, a robot drone near him is video recording him. Meanwhile, Jiraiya orders his men to dispatch hunters into the scene. The light user declares that he won't let both Kuro and the flame demon escape. 9 days later, Doggy is carrying snacks while walking into an abandoned building. She enters one of its apartments expecting to find Emma. She is surprised to see that no one is in the bedroom. Elsewhere in a gate dungeon, the brothers are glad that they are able to do this. While the guild is obsessed with finding the flame demon and Cairo, they are however shocked to see that a screamer appears from behind the woman to live stream their activity. Emma tells the two brothers he needs to kill them for his rehabilitation. The brothers are not scared of him, and even mock him for running away from Cairo. One of the brothers rushes to him with a wind element attack. Emma is frustrated that evil people keep responding, no matter how many times he takes care of them. He rushes towards the brothers and burns them. He declares that sin burns evildoers to ashes. 2 weeks since the battle with Cairo, Emma is walking casually in the streets, among people going through their day. He looks at his phone to see that he is massively hated online, with many articles being made to cash in on his flame demo name. He knows that while the world remains peaceful, hooked up to the news because of an underlying anxiety that something big is going to happen. Vox notices that Emma is not going to the gate and teases him for not being able to push himself while recovering. Emma tells him not to mock, as he's actually on business with a client named online as Quinn. Emma has heard of the rumors that someone has been selling illegal drugs that can level up people's awakened power. VX thinks it sounds fishy. Emma recalls Doggy asking him if he is interested in the drug. The girl informed him that it is just a scam product, popular among struggling streamers. She gets to know that she is in a world where people take advantage of others. Big dreams. Emma asked him if ranks actually increase after taking the drug. Doggy told him that it does not, and that in reality, once one is determined with a rank, they pretty much stay there. Her comment hit Emma hard. Emma told her that he would go out to hunt more criminals, but the girl wanted him to stay and rest. Doggy insisted, but the man was determined to go out, as Emma was about to leave. He thanked Doggy for cleaning up the apartment for him, but he would still leave because he had no intention of staying. In the end, Doggy felt like she could do nothing to stop him. Back in the present, Emma thinks about how he is still no match for Kuro, and that he should get stronger. Dokes suddenly yells at him with a loud horn, shocking the man, who screams. Since no one can see or hear Dokes, he is left looking weird among the crowd. The demon laughs at him for being so distracted by his deep thoughts. Emma is surprised to hear him say that and agrees. Later, Emma streams and greets his viewers with hello, despite his happy-go-lucky performance. All of the viewers want him to die or disappear. He leads the camera to an alley, where 2 people are privately having a transaction and arguing. It intrigues Em that Quinn's information is accurate. Looking at his phone, he sees the mystery person send him a message that he was the one who made the people in the alley fight to stall for time. Emma approaches the 2 and sarcastically asks for drugs to buy. The one with a purple suit asks why a streamer like him is in the alley. Emma asks him if he has medicine for idiots. He then goes on to identify the man in the suit as Toya, the illegal drug dealer, as well as other details in his life. Emma bursts into flames, making the 2 realize that they are in the presence of the flame. Demon, the one who is buying drugs, asks Emma to stop, and even defends Toya for his business, for being the hope of F-rank hunters like him. He feels miserable as an F-rank. He says all his life he was looked down upon by others, with higher ranks, and even by those who were powerless. He dares the flame demon to trade places with him, so that he would know how he feels. Toya butts in to say that he is simply giving people like him hope. He calls himself cockily the last bastion of protection for F-ranks. The comment section of the stream goes into debate over whether Toya is a criminal or simply a byproduct of the system. Emma voices that Toya is just acting high and mighty, after just deceiving Cornered. Weak people, the Frank buyer gets insulted by his comment, and insists that he was not deceived. To prove it, he gulps down all the pills in the bottle of drugs. Emma tells him that it did not look like he had gotten stronger. It confirms to Emma that the drug is fake after all. There is suddenly a tremor. Toya thanks the flame demon for buying him time to charge up his ability. Out of the ground, he unleashes a stone can to get ready. Emma unleashes his side meanwhile. A spider drone is filming the event from a dark computer room. Somewhere the man behind the drone is watching and deems the situation interesting. The drug buyer is running away from 2 titans about to fight. The viewers of the stream think the flame demon is stupid for standing still, while the can is about to shoot. Toya laughs that he is about to capture a big fish that will make him rich. His cannon fires a large, glowing iron ball, making the man laugh even harder, like it was nothing before Toya knew it. The comment section goes into debate about whether what he did was right. The mystery man in the dark computer room finds it amusing that people are bashing the flame demon online. It is interesting to him that people of all ages become a bunch of shouting idiots. When online, he assembles all the footage he has of the flame demon, and then uploads all of it. The mystery man goes on to complain about how he has failed to die properly, but he feels the flame demon must be the same. Until now, he has been recording himself with his drone. Quinn messages Yin to congratulate him on turning his rage into fire. It makes Emma wonder how he knows so much about him. Quinn assures him that he is not his enemy. Emma looks around wondering if he is watching over him. Quinn answers that he is, and that he was also watching his fight with Cairo. This intrigues Emma even more. The mysterious messenger asks them to work together from now on. Vox finds a man super shady. The man on the computer then traces Doggy's location on a map. Later, Emma heads to the apartment where he is hiding and is about to open the door. He is about to turn the knob when he hears two voices inside. Vox confirms that he also hears two voices. Emma asks if the demon can slip through the door, but Vox tells him that he can only see as far as he can see. The demon, however, says that he can sense awakened ones, and that one of the voices is powerless. Emma wonders how someone could have known of their location, especially since there is supposed to be no power. In a dangerous location of the abandoned district, he fears that Doggy might be in danger inside and envisions her death. He panics and bursts in the door. Surprisingly, Doggy is having a wonderful conversation with the man, usually shown in the computer room. Emma suddenly puts his side blade to the man's neck. He asks who he is and how he found the place. The man raises his hands, while answering casually that he hates violence. Emma then asks Doggy why he let the man in. She shows that he has left her a message to entertain their guest. The mystery man apologizes and admits that it was he who messaged her. Emma realizes that he hacked his phone. The man introduces himself as Quinn and says that he found their hideout by tracking the phone. Emma asks what he wants to be more open. Quinn tells them that he just showed his sincerity and tells them his real name, Suna, and that he came to help them. He says that what he is about to say will not be believed if he just messages him about it. They hear footsteps coming. Suna tells them that he is not the only hacker who found out about their place. A few minutes later, a gang of men bursts into the room. They look around but find that the room is empty. One of them looks outside and sees the flame demon on the rooftop. Emma powers up his side with fire. Later, Emma, Doggy, and Suna head to an abandoned school. Suna sarcastically tells them that they should have learned from school not to follow strangers like him. Emma thanks him for risking his life. I go into the apartment to guard Doggy from an upcoming attack. Suna replies that he did it because he does not like seeing girls hurt. He tells them about how Kuro invited him to be an underling of his, but refused him. When he learned of all the girls the villain victimized, he leaked everything to the police and told Kuro about it. Suna presses a fire alarm button. It leads to a secret passage opening. They enter it and go down a flight of stairs. At the end, Suna welcomes them to his computer room. Suna declares that the secret lair in the abandoned room is his secret base. The realization that he has won makes Emma's eyes sparkle. Suna gets up from his chair and asks if he wants to be allies with him. Emma shakes his hand, glad to have an ally with a secret base. Doggy finds the two stupid. Suna goes on to tell them that because of online technology, they are in the age of those who can get money out of. Stirring up conflict, Emma asks if he can get money out of his stream. He seems so innocent that Suna does not know what to say. Doggy asks if he had been collecting streaming revenue, and says that he has only been using his sister's college fund. He is sad as he tells Suna that his sister is Yumi. It shocks Suna that the flame demon's real identity is the brother of Yumi, who should have been killed alongside her. He is currently at a dead end. He talks about Kuro and how he can't imagine ever beating him. Suna advises him to get more allies on his side. Emma can't think of anyone since even the strong Shinji got defeated. Suna suggests the person he has on his monitor. Emma and Doggy are shocked to see the face of the person he wants. He reveals that he wants Jira, the top hunter, as their ally. Watching the LEDs are all excited for the event. The news announces that the award is not only for his known successes, but also for recently conquering an S-rank gate. At the stadium, there are no empty seats. The whole crowd is cheering as the ceremony takes place. Jira bows and takes it, the crowd goes wild. Deep down, Jira thinks the awards ceremony and media coverage are all a farce. To him, the piece of paper given to him has no real value. He suddenly senses danger and sees a burning side going in his direction. Jira moves to protect the government officials, leaving only the award paper to be hit by the size blade. Emma then jumps to the stage as if nothing had happened. He tells Jira that it is nice to meet him. With a big smile, he introduces himself as the Flame Demon. The crowd panics at seeing the Flame Demon in person. The reporter, as the stadium, announces to the camera that the Flame Demon has arrived. On the stream, all the viewers think he is disgusting for showing up at the ceremony. Emma charges at Jira, making the light user conscious of protecting the officials. He summons his lightsaber, putting the stadium in brightness. He asks the officials to evacuate while the enemy is distracted. So they run away. Emma finds his flames slowly waning. Jira reveals that all power used with malice is erased by the light. Yanime reviews that he wields 3 advanced light skills that symbolize purification, protection, and healing. Jira asks that he leave immediately. Yanime realizes that his flames are incompatible with his power and that he should never face him seriously. He remains calm and pulls out a jar from his pocket. He spreads the contents of the jar, which looks like black powder. Emma tells him that if his ability-based power is weak, he still needs to face scientific fire. He ignites the gunpowder, making the stage explode. The crowd worries about what happened to Jira. They try to search for him, but the smoke is too thick to see anything. Within the smoke, Jira's and Emma's weapons have crossed. The light user asks what he is after. Emma answers that the ceremony is a farce anyway, since he failed the S-rank gate conquest. Jira is shocked that he knows this. Emma reveals that he did not come to blackmail him, but just wants to discuss something with him. Deep down, Emma is nervous that their plan will not work out, and Jira will just attack him. They back away from each other, but they do not stop staring each other down. Emma suggests that they change location.